Good evening, everyone. At least it's evening here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am Suzanne from DiGregorio. We're a symphonic Gothic metal band out of Pittsburgh here. And I would like to introduce you to the band, which is primarily just me. I'm the guitarist, I'm the songwriter, and there are a host of other very talented session players and audio engineers that make me sound really good, and I very much appreciate them. Unfortunately, because they are session players, I can't really lasso them in at the last minute. So it's pretty much just me. The meaning behind DiGregorio. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. So my last name currently is Decree, which is my father's last name. My grandfather on my father's side was Giovanni DiGregorio. Sound familiar, right? Apparently, when Giovanni hit Ellis Island when he was coming over from Italy, they told him he needed a legal decree for something or other, so he changed the name. So DiGregorio is actually a nod to the heritage and just kind of funny little family story that makes me chuckle every time I see it. So Black and White was written about 20 years ago originally. It was a kind of a jazzy, proggy piece that I had thrown together when a family member suddenly had passed away without any notice, without any warning. And then just last year, in January of 2020, my dad also passed away very suddenly, very unexpectedly. And for some reason, the demos that I had recorded 20 years ago on this Black and White suite just kept playing over and over and over on my playlist. And I'm like, okay, I take the hint. I'm going to do something with it. Because it was so deeply personal to me, I wanted to do as much as I could myself. So I did bring in my friend Aaron Griffith, who is a phenomenal bassist, to give me some bass lines on it. But I played all the guitar, I did all the drum lines, I did all the drum programming. I didn't actually bring in a real drummer. And I did all the keyboard lines. And then the creme de la creme was I'd called my good friend Cheryl and said, "Oh, Cheryl, dear, sweet, classically trained soprano friend of mine, I would like to attempt to sing on my next album, and I'm not very good at the whole singing thing." So Cheryl actually coached me through it. But obviously the lyrics were about sudden loss, sudden death, the things we wanted to say, the things we should have said, but that we never got to say. Apology, of course, is the longest piece of that suite. I did end up breaking out the songs on the album, or the sections of the songs on the album, so I guess it qualifies as a song, but the Black and White suite is really meant to be listened to as an entire suite, as an entire piece, because I'm actually very classically trained, and so I think a lot in classical terms and classical construction of songs. But Apology, of course, is basically since both my dad and this other family member 20 years ago had passed away without very suddenly, without notice, without any kind of warning. It's kind of an apology for not being there. The album cover art is actually a photograph of a gravestone, an angel statue on as a gravestone, that my very good friend and longtime photographer Robert Carson took. Rob is just phenomenal photographer. I can't thank him enough for all of the projects we've done together, all of the things. He's called on me to be a model a couple of times, and of course he does all of my album photography now, and he is just an amazing photographer. But he, when I was writing this album, I shot him a quick text message, and I'm like, dude, I've got an album coming up. I'm jonesing here. I need something for a cover art. do you have anything graveyard related? Do you have anything, gravestones? Do you have anything that I can use, that I can use for this album cover? And of course, he had this beautiful, beautiful angel statue from a graveyard that he had done some photography in. And basically, I used that, and I just created the rest of the album art. I have a little bit of background in graphics arts, not anything terribly exciting, but I would like to believe that it represents the album. It represents what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and it was important for me to do this album as much by myself as I could, so I didn't want to reach out to a graphic artist. Do I think it's important to have a label deal? Oh, that is the question we're all asking, isn't it? Being an independent musician gives me more freedom to do what I want to do. I'm not locked into a specific sound. I can go from House of Gregory Chapter 1 to Black and White, and both completely different sounds. Black and White, much more sparse, much more jazzy. House of Gregory Chapter 1, heavier, thicker, much more produced, much more layered, much more dense, much more classically influenced, actually, than jazz. So I just have more flexibility than I would if I were locked in with a label and having to go through the A&R guys and what have you. That being said, it would really be nice to have somebody do all the noodly behind-the-scenes bits that I just don't really like doing. What got me into music? Wow, my dad's old classical guitar. Dad tried many instruments. He did not really do well with any of them. I do not ever want to hear Streets of Laredo again. It was the only song he could play on the guitar. But I digress. Dad had an old classical guitar that sat in the corner, and it just sat there, and no one ever used it, except the 6-year-old. I was 6 years old. I saw it, and I grabbed it, and I did the best I could on a classical neck with my 6-year-old little fingers, and I was hooked. I was in. Lessons off and on when I was a kid, but I never stopped playing. Didn't touch that guitar, and I've just been playing ever since. What would I change about the music industry? Wow, what wouldn't I change about the music industry? I'd really like to see the music industry for once just become about the musicians. We are the ones who create the product. Unfortunately, artists are terrible business people. That's why we keep getting involved with record labels and other business people that do things for us. But, we don't, we're terrible business people. And I say this as someone who runs 3 or 4 different businesses for other people. Comes time to run my own music business, terrible at it. Terrible. But I would like to see music become more about the musicians who create the music. We run out and we buy the new album, or we stream the new album, or we look at this and we listen to something and it really touches us deeply, and we fork over our money in one way or another, and there's this big body of middlemen that are stuck between the musicians and the fans, and I would really like to see that dissipate. Have I had any epic fails during live performances? Oh, yes. The most recent epic fail was the House of Gregory Chapter 1 pre-release party. And basically, I showed up ready to play. I didn't have a band, so it was just me. I was gonna play my guitar along with the tracks that we had. Um, the engineer didn't get to mix and master the tracks in time, so I got kind of a last minute mix because he had gotten sick and he wasn't feeling well, so it took him longer to do it than expected. My manager at the time was running sound. I couldn't hear myself in the monitors. I had no idea if I was playing in key, off key, in time, out of time. I had no idea what was going on. The audience seemed to love it. I kept looking out and they're like, yes, yes, we love it. And I'm like, great. I have no idea what I'm playing. This is awesome. I know where my fingers are. I think that's the part of the song I hear in the monitor, but I'm really not sure. So that was the most recent epic fail. I had no idea. And a couple of the guys came up and they fixed the soundboard so that I could hear my monitors and people out in the audience could hear the music. And then the manager would come over and he would tweak the soundboard and then we'd lose the sound again. And I'd be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be playing right now. So that was probably the biggest epic fail. I'm not much of a movie person anymore, so I can't say that there are any movies because I haven't really seen any. The last few movies that I did see did not impress me, which is why I haven't gone back to the theater to see more. But new music. Oh, I mean, I'm always looking forward to the next Epica release. Who's not looking forward to the next Epica release? I am always listening for new bands. I usually hang out in the Insane Realm radio chats, Women of Metal show on Saturday nights. And, tons of good music there. Tons and tons and tons. Always looking forward to the next Diabolus and Musica release. Always looking forward to the next Lacuna Coil release. There are a lot of local bands here in Pittsburgh that are really great too. Breathing Process. Always looking forward for the to new Breathing Process. There are a lot of good bands here in Pittsburgh. And my good friend Inez, I'm going to give her a shout out. Little softer side. She's R&B, but still incredibly talented, and I just really love supporting my friends and their endeavors. And also Kat Corelli, who is just a phenomenal musician. Emigrated from Russia to the U.S. 2 years ago, I think, just before the COVID, and she's been getting some music out there, and she's an incredible composer. So always looking forward to the next thing that Kat's got to offer. Always looking forward to the next thing from Inez, and of course, Epica, Targa, Lacuna Coil. The last 2 Lacuna Coil albums have been phenomenal. I just really love the direction that they're heading in. The local music scene, I think Pittsburgh's probably about the same as any other music scene. I'm not really sure. We do have a pretty healthy metal scene. We do have a lot of bands. We have a lot of venues. I mean, a lot of it's pay to play, of course, because that's the way the music industry is going. There are 1 or 2 venues around here that go off of door percentages, but and I quite frankly run one of those, and that's why. But the music scene here, very varied. Pittsburgh itself is still very much an old blue-collar steel mill town in a lot of respects, and they like their classic rock. They like their classic rock, and they want to hear the classic rock. So the metal and the R&B and a lot of the other things that are coming out of Pittsburgh now are more low key. Like there are a lot of metal bands in Pittsburgh, and there are a lot of super talented musicians, and they all end up playing to like the same 10 people every show, and booking with the same few venues every week, and going with the same couple of promoters all the time. So that there's a lot of talent here in Pittsburgh. Unfortunately, the audience tends to skew toward more mainstream music, so it is, I think, a little bit harder to cut the mustard here in Pittsburgh. What are the future plans for DiGregorio? World domination through heavy metal? Anyone? Anyone? Okay. We are moving very, very quickly. The House of Gregory Chapter 2 is in post-production right now. Getting some mastering done on that, and about to have a pre-sale on that. So we're gonna be putting together a box set and some other cool stuff and doing some pre-sales for House of Gregory Chapter 2. That being said, I think the big news on the DiGregorio front is the first ever full-length heavy metal opera that I'm writing, because of course I'm writing a full-length heavy metal opera. Why not? I am hoping, knock on wood back here, I am hoping that I will actually go into production this year. But the libretto is almost there. I've got a few details to work out on the libretto before I kick into lyrics and then eventually music. So I'm really hoping to have everything written and polished and ready to go a little bit later this year. And then somewhere in there I have to figure out when exactly I'm releasing House Chapter 2. And so it should be a really exciting year on the DiGregorio front. Should be a very, very exciting year. So I wanted to thank Antichrist magazine for having me on this week and this day, whatever day this is. It's the interwebs. There are no more days. There are no more weeks. It just all is. But thank you very much for reaching out. Thank you very much for having me on. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. You can check us out at DiGregoriomusic.com on the interwebs. Facebook is DiGregorio Pittsburgh, I believe, DiGregorio PGH, and Instagram and all of the other social media sites should be DiGregorio_band. So check us out, reach out, shoot me an email, say hi. And again, thank you very much, Antichrist Magazine, for having me on, and keep on rocking, guys.